I am a small-time hoodlum, currently surrounded by a gang of rougher thugs. Outnumbered and at a disadvantage, I glanced towards my arch-nemesis who happened to be passing by. With all my might, I shouted, "Darling, I am over here." Excellent. The obedient boy picked up the steel pipe from the ground and approached me with a grim expression. 1. The news of Yen Sui's intolerance toward homosexuality had spread throughout the entire school. This was due to an incident when he had ruthlessly assaulted a young boy who had dared to express his affection for him, right in front of the dean. As for someone like me who boldly called him husband, I was certain he would be unable to tolerate such audacity. Indeed, as Yen Sui approached, he picked up a piece of brick. With a steel pipe in his left hand and a brick in his right, his towering 187-centimeter frame, coupled with that exquisitely cold visage, left the 5 ruffians surrounding me utterly dumbfounded. I chuckled as I averted my gaze, causing them to do the same, their mirth dissipating instantaneously. Leaning against the wall, I adopted a scowl and shouted in displeasure, "What are you staring at? Can't you see my husband has arrived? Scram if you know what's good for you." Regrettably, none of the 5 fools budged. Glancing toward Yen Sui, who was 20 meters away, I realized my time to escape was dwindling. I donned a smile once more and earnestly warned, "Honestly, my husband can be quite fierce when he fights. You should hurry and run." The leader of the group, a scruffy-haired fellow, finally caught on and seized my collar, exclaiming, "Run? That kid is clearly coming for you. His eyes are practically boring into you. Who do you think you're fooling?" I met his gaze, a smile playing on my lips as I silently cursed him with my eyes. "You're the one being fooled, you ugly brute." After that mental exchange, I lowered my eyes, contemplating whether to cover my head or cling to Yen Sui's leg when the time came. The scruffy-haired leader continued to taunt, "Xia Zhusheng, you pitiful wretch raised without a mother. Your father is a gambling addict, and you resort to selling your body. Truly a family of misfits, wouldn't you all agree? Ha ha ha." Suddenly, Yen Sui brought the brick crashing down upon his head, instantly drawing blood. Seizing the moment, I delivered a swift kick. Just as I retracted my leg, a steel pipe was thrust into my hand. Yen Sui pushed me forcefully, delivering 2 rapid high kicks and a solid stomp that swiftly took down 2 assailants. Energized, I swung my arm, striking each of them as if they were fragile melons. Yen Sui, hearing the commotion, rushed forward to deliver 2 more kicks. The chorus of cries was gratifying. My smile, however, faltered halfway as I locked eyes with Yen Sui's razor-sharp gaze, and I froze. This was it. I was in trouble. 2. No need to panic. A one-on-one still held some promise of victory. I feigned ferocity, stepping back to assume a fighting stance. "Come on, Yen Sui. No longer calling me husband?" Damn it, he was getting too close. Yen Sui lowered his gaze, scanning me from head to toe, before stepping forward. Instinctively, I tensed, but he merely snatched the steel pipe from my grasp. In the next instant, he swung it forcefully toward my side. A scream followed, but it wasn't mine. It belonged to the scruffy-haired leader, who still clutched a brick. I wasted no time in delivering a fierce kick, exclaiming, "That's what you get for ambushing me. That's what you get for talking behind my back." With my third kick, a vice-like grip seized my arm. The sensation mirrored something from a dream I had the previous night, flooding me with a wave of embarrassing memories that left me frozen, allowing him to drag me forward. It wasn't until we turned into a narrow alley that Yen Sui finally released me. That alley is close to the school and has patrolling security. I nodded in understanding. Good students fear reprimands. Speaking of which, I felt I should express my gratitude. Clearing my throat awkwardly, I began, "Thanks for today. I'll Xia Zhusheng." I shot my head up. "What?" Yen Sui remained expressionless. "Your ears are quite red." His comment sent a rush of heat to my face. "What are you thinking?" Yen Sui pressed, inching closer. "Damn it." I shoved him away. "Why are you getting so close? Aren't you afraid of homosexuality? You were the one who initiated contact." I find I was indeed at fault. As I racked my brain for a way to deflect him, my chin was suddenly lifted. "Why?" I felt a bit flustered. "Why what? Why, in broad daylight, in front of so many people, did you call me that?" How could I possibly answer him? The bold exclamation that slipped from my lips stemmed from a bizarre dream I had last night. In it, a future version of Yen Sui and I had established a safe word, husband. The moment I uttered it, he would cease his actions. Faced with Yen Sui in the crowd today, I instinctively shouted it out, not expecting him to actually stop. Felt surreal. And now a sense of delayed embarrassment washed over me. Yen Sui continued to stare at me, stubbornly awaiting an answer. But how could I articulate that? Moreover, I dared not speak it aloud. Thus, I chose to brush him off. Adopting an impatient demeanor, I called out, "Does it require such justification? You've reported me countless times. Am I not allowed a moment of retaliation?" Yen Sui nodded. "Do you like me?" My eyes widened in shock. "Like you? My foot. The disciplinary actions I face are half your doing. How dare you ask? Can't you see how much you irritate me? Is that so? But I wouldn't call someone I dislike husband." I was at a loss. I had never won a verbal sparring match against him. I should have just resorted to a physical fight. I tossed my backpack to the ground, stating coldly, "Come on, let us settle this." Yen Sui met my gaze, and after 2 seconds, a smirk crept onto his face. He then picked up my backpack and slung it over his shoulder. "No fight. Since I helped you today, you owe me a meal as thanks. At your house." 3. I stood rooted to the spot, while Yen Sui had already walked quite a distance, heading in the direction of my home. How peculiar. How did he know where I lived? Had he been following me? I hurried to catch up and posed the question. Yen Sui shot me a fleeting glance, a grin dancing at the corners of his mouth as he replied, "I didn't know before, but I had a dream last night, and suddenly, I knew." "You had a dream last night too? What was it about?" Yen Sui halted and turned to face me. "From the way you're acting and the expression on your face, it seems you had a dream too? What did you dream about?" The topic felt too sensitive, so I opted for silence and quickened my pace. Yen Sui soon caught up, walking alongside me. "Last night, I dreamt of many things, as if I had lived half a lifetime." I responded with an "oh," casting him a sideways glance. "Who asked you to explain?" Finally, I witnessed Yen Sui falter, and it felt as if the clouds looming overhead had dispersed slightly. As we neared my home, a sudden realization struck me. My grandmother was unaware that I was now collecting debts for Hong Yi. Nor did she know that I had become a regular target for weekly reprimands at school, or that my grades were abysmal. Her perception of me had remained unchanged for the past year, when I was still regarded as a good child, much like Yen Sui. Back then, my grandmother was quite healthy, and she often spoke of earning more money to send me to a prestigious university. A year's time had wrought significant changes. When Yen Sui transferred to our class in the first semester of our senior year, it coincided with my own decline. He would collect assignments from me that I could never submit, and I would flip over his desk in defiance. I had been caught for tardiness, early departures, and even skipping class numerous times. Today, he had witnessed me fighting with a group of thugs. I halted at my doorstep, raising a hand to block Yen Sui, who was about to enter. "You will meet my grandmother shortly. Please refrain from speaking. Her health is fragile, and she cannot endure any surprises." In her eyes, I have always been quite well behaved. I lifted my gaze to Yen Sui, my voice involuntarily lowering. "Do you understand what I mean?" As soon as I finished speaking, the door swung open from within. My grandmother appeared at the threshold, leaning on her cane. Yen Sui immediately stepped forward, positioning himself protectively in front of me, and bowed slightly. "Hello, Grandma. My name is Yen Sui. I am a good friend of Xie Zhuxing. I came to consult him about a few questions I didn't comprehend during class today." I discreetly kicked him from behind. "There was no need for such formality, dear brother." Yen Sui quickly pinched my palm and tossed both backpacks to me before guiding my grandmother inside. "Oh?" Yen Sui had only taken a few days off to attend a funeral, yet on his first day back at school, he seemed like a different person. Had he perhaps been drinking traditional Chinese medicine? After her chemotherapy, my grandmother could not touch cold water, so I usually took care of the cooking. However, today was different. Yen Sui insisted on shooing me out of the kitchen. After lunch, he even insisted on washing the dishes, which caused my grandmother's gaze towards him to shift from admiration to affection. Although it was merely a light rain outside, my grandmother brought a new quilt to my room. Speaking directly to Yen Sui, "Little Sui, the hour is getting late, and the rain is falling. If you don't mind, you may stay overnight and accompany Ashang to school in the morning." Yen Sui discreetly concealed the bottle of iodine I had just taken out behind his back, smiling in agreement. Once my grandmother left, I snatched the iodine from his hand, sitting on the edge of the bed while rolling up my pant legs. "Don't overthink it. My grandmother is simply pleased to see me bringing a friend home for the first time. That's why she's treating you so kindly. You can leave once the rain stops. Who says I want to leave? Yen Sui crouched in front of me, observing the bruises on my legs, gradually furrowing his brow. I awkwardly pushed him away. If it bothers you, just close your eyes. Who told you to get so close? Suddenly, my ankle was grasped, and Yen Sui lifted his head, a hint of amusement glimmering in his eyes. Not unattractive, like a palette of colors, or perhaps a vibrant garden in full bloom. Are you out of your mind? Yen Sui's smile widened. Xie Zhusheng, I'm not crazy. Don't scold me. Do you need help? It dawned on me that he was still holding my ankle, and I hurriedly wriggled free. I don't need any. If you're staying, hurry up and take a shower, and grab your clothes from the cupboard. Don't bother me. Watching him enter the bathroom, I began to tend to the injuries on my legs. If it hadn't been for that cut I got while working yesterday, I wouldn't have been surrounded by those 5 yellow-haired ruffians today. I could hold my own in a fight, a skill honed by my drunken, abusive father. A year ago, when my grandmother was diagnosed with cancer and urgently needed money, I had no choice but to borrow from the Hong Society at exorbitant interest rates. On my second visit, Mr. Hong asked if I would be willing to accompany him, promising to waive the interest and allow me to offset my debt. I had initially thought he meant to recruit me as a thug, so I agreed. It wasn't until he took me to a room that I realized what he truly wanted. In the struggle, I smashed an ashtray against his head and fled, but was caught halfway. I had prepared myself for a fight to the death, but Mr. Hong genuinely allowed me to work with other associates. Claiming I had a fierce spirit, the incident gained significant attention, and instead of being punished, I became part of Mr. Hong's circle. Over time, rumors of my supposed promiscuity spread. Today, that loud-mouthed yellow-haired thug made such a racket that Yen Sui must have heard. Yet he still dared to approach me, which was quite contrary to his homophobic persona. Feeling the mattress dip slightly, I shifted inward. Soon, the room was engulfed in darkness. Xie Zhusheng. What? Your occiput is remarkably round. Xie Zhusheng. What now? You're about to fall off. Mind your own business. Xie Zhusheng. I flipped over and gripped his neck. You better have a reason. Yen Sui gazed at me, and after a long pause he smiled softly. Nothing serious. Just wanted to call your name. I raised my middle finger at him. Yen Sui's smile broadened. Good night. 5. I dreamt once more of Yen Sui and myself a decade later. In a dimly lit room, the curtains fluttered, and moonlight seeped through a corner. On the vast bed, one form lay atop another. Yen Sui, bare-chested and muscular, hovered over me. One hand cradled my face while the other fumbled with my buttons, occasionally kissing me. It was evident he intended to engage in something illicit. I lay beneath him, my arms covering my eyes, utterly still. My reaction was peculiar. There was no resistance, nor was there enjoyment. It felt more like fear. This was supposed to be our first intimate encounter, yet why was I so frightened? I wanted to please him. Otherwise, I wouldn't have clung to his shoulder so tightly. Yet my body trembled uncontrollably. Yen Sui pulled my arms down, locking eyes with me. My expression bore traces of pain and guilt. Without uttering a word, he leaned down and kissed me gently. His soothing kiss traveled to my left cheek, where an unsightly scar lay. It extended from my cheekbone to the corner of my mouth, appearing much deeper than in my previous dream. The kisses continued, and I guided Yen Sui's hand to my waist, wrapping my arms around him, whispering, "Continue." Yen Sui regarded me, beads of sweat forming on his forehead, his voice deep and sultry. Xie Zhusheng, shall we establish a safe word? I blinked, and he leaned closer to my side, his voice, laced with amusement, brushing against my ear. Darling. In that instant, a fire ignited within me. Yen Sui assured me that as long as I uttered that word, he would cease. For reasons I couldn't articulate, perhaps out of shyness or something else, I found myself unable to utter it that night. We continued until the very end. Afterward, Yen Sui lay atop me, holding me for what felt like an eternity. One hand propped beneath my back, occasionally kneading my shoulder blades. It was evident he adored me profoundly. With my eyes closed, I felt relaxed, my eyelashes damp, as if I had crossed a threshold. Was the future version of me truly so emotional? The scene gradually blurred, fading into a deep blue. The curtains swayed gently in the wind, sunlight streaming in, illuminating my surroundings. I abruptly opened my eyes, my face pressed against his muscular chest. My head nestled in the crook of his neck, cradled in Yensue's embrace. The present Yensue. I instantly became alert, pushing him away. Who gave you permission to invade my bed? Yensue paused for 2 seconds. You kept calling my name last night and even cried. My face flushed crimson, a mix of embarrassment and anger. Couldn't you have just slapped me awake? Impossible. I never laid a hand on you before and certainly wouldn't now. I sat up on the bed, glaring at him. What? You look down on me? No. Yensue rolled off the bed, turning away, backlit by the light. I like you. 6. Yensue truly baffled me. Every word and action seemed as if he had overdosed on herbal medicine. How could one develop feelings simply from sleeping together for a night? And to have their sexual orientation altered in the process? Who would believe such a tale? Certainly not I. Yensue entered a breakfast shop to buy breakfast while I lingered at the door, contemplating how to extricate myself from him. Since we left in the morning, he had been watching me closely, clearly anxious that I might skip school. However, the truth was, I had no intention of going. I had work to do this morning and planned to skip class entirely. Yensue, I have a headache. Please help me take a morning off. I need to go home and lie down. A small basket of dumplings and a cup of soy milk were thrust into my hands. Eat first, and after you're done, I'll accompany you to the hospital. Frustration surged within me. Do you not understand what I'm saying? Yensue looked at me, his expression gradually turning cold. I comprehend perfectly. Perhaps you do not grasp my intent. If you truly feel unwell, I will go with you to the hospital. After your appointment, I will escort you home. Once you're feeling better, we will return to school together. Understood? You must stay with me today. I chuckled in disbelief, tossing my breakfast into his arms. Are you out of your mind, Yensue? What business is it of yours? Why do you feel the need to involve yourself in my affairs? With a sharp noise, both items fell to the ground, and in the next moment, my arm was firmly grasped. Xiaojusheng, I will compensate you for the wages you missed today, he declared. Wages, my foot. Let go. Damn it. He tightened his grip on my wrist again. It's not just wages. I will also repay the money you owe to Hongxi. If you need to borrow money, you can come to me. There is no deadline and no interest. I scoffed, turning to face him directly. So, you're investigating me? You feel sorry for me and want to help? If you're so overflowing with compassion, go help those who are starving and homeless. I have hands and feet. I do not need your pity. Stay out of my life. My outburst left me feeling agitated, while Yensue remained as unyielding as a statue of ice, his expression unchanged. Damn it, I felt like a fool. Let go. If you don't release me, don't blame me for being rude. Suddenly, a shadow loomed over me, our breaths mingling, and his lips brushed against mine softly. What the hell? He held my chin firmly, his thumb grazing my left cheek. Xiaojusheng, I told you I wouldn't resort to violence against you. Provoking me is futile. Also, just an hour ago I confessed my feelings for you. Did it fall on deaf ears? I cannot be considered kind, and I'm even cold-blooded. I have no penchant for the pitiful, so if you cannot differentiate between pity and affection, do not involve me. A breath caught in my throat, suspended in uncertainty. My eyes fell on the scattered dumplings and soy milk on the ground, my mind buzzing. I couldn't fight back, nor could I articulate my thoughts. Damn it. In a fit of anger, I picked up the dumplings and soy milk. In the blink of an eye, Yensue snatched them from me, tossing them into a nearby trash can. Without uttering a word, he dragged me back to the breakfast shop to buy another portion. Then he pulled me across the street. I sat on a stone pedestal, exhausted, casting a reluctant glance at him. Do you really like me? I truly do. Remember this conclusion. From today onward, I will gradually fill in the details, and within a month you will know whether it is genuine. A cup of soy milk, complete with a straw, was presented before me. My head felt numb and my mouth dry. Without a second thought, I took a sip from his hand. Looking up, I noticed a security guard holding a walkie-talkie. Director, we've caught a couple of early romantics at the school gate. Could you come down? I was taken aback, while Yensue appeared unfazed. He boldly took the walkie-talkie and argued, Director, we are both over 18. Stand right there. Damn it. There was no escaping this now. Yensue, confident in his status as a top student, disregarded the director's warning gaze and continued to hold my wrist as we walked. Upon entering the administrative building, he turned to ask, Does your head still hurt? Shut up. When we reached the director's office, I noticed our homeroom teacher was also present. Yen Sui claimed full responsibility, placing me outside the door. He asked the homeroom teacher to take me back to class while he followed the director inside. He was genuinely afraid I would run away. But I wouldn't. My accomplice in debt collection, Brother Zhang, had already left, and I wouldn't be able to catch up even if I tried. The homeroom teacher was likely busy, her phone ringing incessantly. After the director nodded, she led me away. The journey was silent. The homeroom teacher occasionally glanced at me, her expression reflecting disappointment. I had once been a promising student in her eyes, but in just a year, I had become unrecognizable. She was aware of my family situation, and though I skipped classes, she turned a blind eye and never contacted my grandmother. I felt grateful to her, but now I was also filled with guilt. A once promising student bent to the point of breaking was hard for anyone to accept. As soon as we entered the classroom, my desk mate, the chubby boy, immediately cleared his things off my desk, grinning widely. Hey, Shenggu, what brings you to morning class today? Enough with the chatter. My grandmother needed assistance during her chemotherapy, and I often had early work at Hongxi. I hadn't attended morning reading in a long time. I was lost in thought, staring at Yen Sui's empty seat when the classroom fell silent. Person walked in through the front door, sporting a handprint on his face and streaks of blood on his uniform. It was Chun Haoyu, who sat diagonally across from me. He dropped his bag with a thud. Only the chubby boy was eager for gossip. Bro, what happened to you? Nothing much, just had a scuffle with some gangsters. Hey, I remember you live with your uncle. Did you or your uncle get into trouble? Did you borrow from loan sharks? Chun Haoyu's expression changed abruptly, his voice sharp and high-pitched. Borrowing doesn't mean not paying back. The guy collecting the debt is just a bully. Once I catch him, I'll make him pay. The implications of Chun Haoyu's words, coupled with the timing of his arrival, made me think. I kicked his chair. What are you shouting about? Tell me, what's your uncle's name? Chun Haoyu glared at me, his face filled with hostility. I kicked him again. Finally, he replied, Chun Ping, what's it to you? I chuckled softly, waving my hand to signal him to turn away. How coincidental. The person I was supposed to accompany with Brother Zhang to collect debts was indeed named Chun Ping. If Yen Sui hadn't stopped me this morning, I would have certainly gone and would have inevitably encountered Chun Haoyu. He would then come to school as usual, and according to his earlier words, he would seize the opportunity to deal with the debt collector. So what awaited me? The first class was mathematics. Others received their test papers, but I did not, so I fell asleep. I dreamed, and this time, there was no Yen Sui, only myself. But when I awoke, I found Yen Sui before me. I frowned at him. What happened to my desk mate? Yen Sui pointed in a direction. It was now break time, and the chubby boy was moving his desk towards the top student area. There was an empty seat, which had originally been Yen Sui's. From now on, I will be your desk mate. I withdrew my gaze, observing Yen Sui as he organized his books. I'm not concerned about that. What did the teacher with the sideswept bangs say? Did he ask you to inform your parents or write a reflection? Yen Sui lifted his eyelids. No need to inform parents, no need to write a reflection, and no demerits. The director has allowed me to pursue a relationship. I paused for 2 seconds. Did you steal his wig? Or did you slip him some money? Yen Sui halted his movements, looking at me with a hint of exasperation. Xia Zhuxing, do you really think so little of me? I merely provided him with a guarantee. What? A flicker of amusement danced in Yen Sui's eyes. The school allows me to pursue a relationship, and I'm still a top student. I gazed at him, my eyes slowly drifting to his lower abdomen, nodding. I see, are you pregnant? Shut up, Yen Sui replied, his face darkening. Can you please speak properly? I chuckled. I'm afraid it's you who fail to engage in proper conversation. Isn't it? Me? Overreacting? I'm hesitant to even listen to what you have to say. And if you insist on harboring feelings for me, that is your affair. I have no intention of being your significant other, nor should you attempt to inundate my mind with your notions. Tend to your own matters instead. Yen Sui regarded me with a frigid expression, remaining silent. At that moment, Chun Haoyu, seated diagonally across from me, turned his head, casting a fleeting glance my way before looking back at Yen Sui, seemingly at a loss for words. I almost forgot that this individual had persistently sought to confess his affection to Yen Sui, and after being rebuffed numerous times, had audaciously stolen her school uniform, brazenly wearing it to the basketball court in search of her, which incited Yen Sui to retaliate with a furious assault, leaving even his sideswept bangs in a state of shock. The effect was palpable. At least now, Chun Haoyu appeared somewhat subdued. I let out a soft chuckle, prompting him to immediately fix his gaze on me, his eyes betraying a mixture of resentment and disdain. Recalling the dream I had earlier, a surge of anger coursed through me. I snatched a book and aimed to strike him with it, but Yen Sui intervened, her voice laced with a hint of warning. I gritted my teeth, holding my ground for a moment before hurling the book into the cavity of the desk. I spent the remainder of the day ignoring him entirely. In that dream, I had accompanied Brother Zhang to Chun Ping's residence to collect a debt, and indeed, we encountered Chin Haoyu. Brother Zhang, upon learning that he was my classmate, had me stand guard outside, during which I remained entirely passive. However, upon his return to school, Chun Haoyu reported me to the authorities, alleging that I was involved in gang activities, robbery, and assault. These half-truths were impossible for me to refute. The following day, his uncle, bruised and battered, stormed into the school, accusing me of vandalizing their home, stealing money, and threatening Chen Haoyu. He demanded compensation, leading the school to expel me. In truth, I had long considered dropping out, but my homeroom teacher insisted I obtain a high school diploma. After this incident, I had little to defend myself with and submitted my application for withdrawal. However, I would not pay him a dime. I had neither the means nor the desire to compensate. Consequently, Chun Haoyu escalated matters to my home. My grandmother learned of the situation and all that I had been involved in over the past year. Her already fragile health could not withstand such a shock, leading her to fall gravely ill and requiring hospitalization, which incurred substantial expenses. I sold our house and took my grandmother away from Wuan Alley. No one was aware of this, not even Yen Sui. The day before Chun Haoyu stirred up trouble at school, he had taken leave to return home, and he did not appear again until after my withdrawal. In the dream, Yen Sui remained oblivious to the turmoil I had faced in those days. Yet, in reality, I had a nagging suspicion that he was aware, perhaps even more so than I realized. I chose not to attend evening study sessions. After the final class of the afternoon concluded, I deliberately avoided Yen Sui and climbed over the wall to sneak away. However, I spotted him outside the wall. I seized his collar and pulled him toward a blind spot from the surveillance cameras. Have you taken to skipping class now? Yen Sui lowered his gaze, meticulously prying my fingers apart one by one. Then he slipped a leave request into my palm. I left through the front entrance. So what? I slapped the leave request against his chest. Why are you taking leave for no reason? Don't tell me you came out here to catch me. Yen Sui chuckled softly. You should return home to cook for your grandmother. Why would I be trying to catch you? I need to head home as well, so I'll be going. Wait, does he know too much? Just as I was about to pursue him for answers, Yen Sui had already vanished around the corner. Is he in such a hurry to get home? Never mind, I'll ask him tomorrow. Upon returning home, I found the small television in the living room on, with my grandmother dozing on the sofa. Witnessing this scene, my eyes suddenly welled with warmth. I turned away to wipe my eyes, only to hear my grandmother call out to me, "You're back, Zai Zai." I didn't turn back, forcing a calmness into my voice as I replied and headed straight for the kitchen. I prepared a simple meal of 3 dishes and a soup. After dinner, as I washed the dishes in the kitchen, my grandmother brought a small stool to sit by the door, watching me. "Grandma, why don't you sit on the sofa? I'll be done shortly." She remained silent, a gentle smile gracing her lips as she continued to observe me. Once I finished tidying up the dishes, I dried my hands and helped her walk to the sofa, crouching down in front of her with my head bowed. "Grandma, I've been having these strange dreams lately, dreams about my future self." "Oh, did future Zai Zai have a good life?" "Perhaps I did, at least in those 2 dreams where Yen Sui was present. I seem to be doing all right." I nodded with a smile. "Things are quite good now. By the way, Grandma, SNT it said that one cannot dream of things they haven't experienced. Why am I having such dreams?" Grandma stuffed a segment of orange into my mouth, chuckling. "Perhaps you haven't forgotten everything from your past life." "Past life? Did I share a life with Yen Sui in my previous existence? Did I truly experience those things I dreamt of this morning? And Yen Sui, does he know all of this? Could it be that he hasn't forgotten either?" My mind was a tempest of questions. Suddenly, a series of knocks echoed at the door. At this hour, who could it be? The next moment, a familiar voice called out, "Grandma, it's Xiao Sui. Are you home?" With a dark expression, I opened the door and mouthed, "You did this on purpose, didn't you?" Yen Sui didn't even glance at me, instead smiling at my grandmother inside. He tossed a bulging backpack to me and carried in milk and fruit, not forgetting to close the door behind him. I stood at the door, speechlessly amused. How can someone be so brazen? I grabbed the backpack and dragged him into my room, kicking the door shut behind us. What's the meaning of this? Yen Sui chuckled, took the backpack, and walked over to the wardrobe, unzipping it and pulling out my clothes one by one. Your clothes are a bit tight on me, so I brought a few pieces home. Of course, you can wear mine as well. Wait, don't you have a home of your own? Who gave you permission to stay here? Are you going to kick me out? Grandma is right outside. I turned in circles, exasperated, just as my phone rang. A text from Hong Yi appeared. Starting tomorrow, you need not come in. Someone will settle your debts. For some inexplicable reason, I instinctively thought of Yen Sui. Did you go to the Hong Society? Yen Sui remained silent, retrieving a sheet of A4 paper from the backpack and slowly approaching me. Xie Zhuxing, the Hong Society demands 100,000. I'll lend you another 400,000, totaling 500,000. You must begin repayment once you finish university and find a job, paying 1,000 per month. If you agree, please sign here. I stared at the debt acknowledgement held before me, unconsciously grinding my back teeth. After a moment of silence, I snatched the paper and tossed it onto the table, coldly questioning why. I don't want to see you ruin yourself. I'm asking why you insist on getting entangled with someone like me. I haven't saved your life or anything. Xie Zhusheng, you are my other half. Whoever I am, you are as well. Your future is inextricably linked to mine. Nonsense. I have nothing to do with you. You can go find anyone else. Suddenly, my lips were forcefully silenced as Yen Sui gripped the back of my neck, his teeth breaking through my lower lip, and the metallic taste of blood swiftly filled the air. As I attempted to lift my knee, he seized the opportunity to wedge himself between my legs, the wound reopening painfully. A slight movement caused my lower back to collide with the edge of the table. In the next instant, Yen Sui pressed my thumb against my lips, smearing it heavily. Without granting me any chance to escape, he forcefully twisted my hand, pressing it down onto the paper. His thumb was firmly grasping mine, pressing down with such force that the joints turned a shade of pale blue, while the kiss persisted, transforming into a gentle suckling. My eyes reddened, and in a fit of retaliation, I bit back, exerting all my strength to withdraw my hand and slap him across the face. The sound of our breaths echoed in the cramped room, layering upon one another, a stark reminder of the tumultuous moment that had just unfolded. I turned my back, casting my gaze down at my subtly trembling right hand. As my eyes shifted to the lower right corner of the IOU, a vivid red fingerprint swayed before me. With a soft thud, a drop of moisture bloomed on the paper. Instinctively, I reached out to wipe it away, but Yen Sui was quicker, his tears falling onto the back of his hand. He took the IOU from me. In the next instant, I felt an embrace envelop my back. My chest rose and fell, yet I remained motionless, my mind a chaotic whirlwind. It was so tumultuous that I couldn't fathom why I was crying, so disordered that I was unable to utter a coherent sentence. Yen Sui, why must you drag me along? What is it about me that warrants such treatment? The arms wrapped around my waist tightened incrementally. I'm sorry, Xie Zhuxing. I promise this is the last time I will force you. I love you, Xie Zhuxing. I spent 5 years making you believe that, and if given another chance, the 18-year-old Xie Zhuxing would still pose the same question. But it's all right. The 18-year-old Yen Sui is confident that he can provide an answer in a shorter time. Provided that you 1T push me away again, all right? I wiped my face, took a deep breath, and hoarsely spoke. Then answer me one question. In your past life, you were with me, weren't you? Yes. Though it may sound surreal, I indeed have been reborn, carrying the memories of my previous life. Then tell me what happened in your past life so you 1T have to exert so much effort to what I Yen Sui fell silent. I turned my head to look at him, only to have him grasp my chin and turn it back. Xie Zhuxing, pursuing you is a source of great happiness for me. I wouldn't mind reliving it. Yen Sui's voice was unusual. I pried his hand away and turned around, only to find that his eyes were also reddened. A strange pang of hurt shot through my heart. You're lying to me. Still, there was silence. His pained gaze slipped past my eyes, landing on my left cheek, and with a final tilt of his head, he rested his chin on my shoulder, his hands resuming their hold around my waist. When he spoke again, his voice was thick with emotion. I'm not lying. Xie, let the past remain in the past. I don't mind if you forget me. I would rather you remember nothing at all. Why? Yen Sui tightened his embrace, his voice laced with laughter. Because that way, I can love you again. Instinctively, I felt that the 3 dreams I had previously experienced were indeed reflections of events from my past life. According to the trajectory of the 3rd dream, I would drop out and move away, with Yen Sui continuing his studies and taking the college entrance examination, leading to our eventual reunion after a long time. Yen Sui claimed it took him 5 years to pursue me. I couldn't have been that hard to catch. If I had truly felt nothing, I would have kicked him away long ago, not kept him hanging for 5 years. Unless something had transpired before our reunion that drastically altered my disposition. Yet no matter how I pressed or coaxed, Yen Sui refused to divulge a single detail. Last night I dreamt of nothing at all. I attended classes dutifully throughout the day, my mind feeling dull. The only subjects I could comprehend were Chinese and English. As for the others, I slept soundly through them. As per usual, I skipped evening study sessions, but this time, as I reached the wall, Yen Sui caught hold of me, forcibly dragging me out the main entrance. I lagged a step behind, competing with him for control of my hand. I told you not to go overboard. You can just walk out the front door yourself. Before I could finish my sentence, I saw him pull a leave request form from the side pocket of his backpack. 2 sheets okay, fine. I'll pretend I didn't say anything. Thus, I walked past the security guard who summoned me with a sideways glance without a hint of hesitation. On the way home, I made a stop at the fresh produce supermarket to pick up some ingredients for dinner. While selecting tomatoes, a sudden thought struck me, and I bumped into Yen Sui's shoulder. Hey, did you eat the meals I cooked in your past life? Yen Sui took the tomato from my hand and tossed it back, selecting another to place in the bag. Every day. Really? So how long did I cook for you? 5 years? 10 years? Yen Sui lifted his eyelids to glance at me, half smiling. Xie, from last night until now, you've tested me 63 times. Can you let your brain take a rest? Yen Sui picked several tomatoes to weigh and I followed closely behind him. Alright, then let me ask one last question. Did Grandma live to 100? Yen Sui's pace noticeably faltered for a moment, and I heard him say, of course. That's good. I chose a few more vegetables and some meat, and almost ended up in a tussle with him at the checkout. Guess who emerged victorious in the end? Naturally, it was Yen Sui. He played dirty. He even attempted to use his mouth. On the way back, I maintained a distance of 2 steps from him. Yen Sui occasionally turned to glance at me, tossing a few casual remarks my way. As we ascended the stairs, he suddenly turned around and mentioned that he had devised a study plan for me. I instantly darkened my expression, my heart plummeting. Yen Sui's lips moved, but I couldn't decipher what he was saying. I shoved him aside and dashed forward. The security door of my home swung open. Grandma! All the doors in the house were wide open, chairs and tables strewn across the floor. Grandma lay beside the coffee table, trembling as she reached out her hand. Zai, she called. The door slammed shut behind me with a loud bang, and a figure rushed past. Yen Sui burst into Grandma's room. I snapped back to reality and hurried over to lift Grandma, trembling as I tried to wipe the blood from her forehead, my throat feeling as if it were constricted. Grandma grasped my hand, her voice choked with tears. Zai, your father, he wants to take the house deed and use it as collateral. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. From Grandma's room, the sounds of fists and kicks echoed, accompanied by Xie Zhangbao's anguished cries. I cradled her in my arms, covering her ears. It's all right, Grandma. We're back. It's okay. Xie Zhangbao's screams mingled with curses, but I ignored them as I carried Grandma over to the sofa. I don't know how long it was before the sounds from the room began to fade. A sudden sense of foreboding surged within me. I rushed into the room to find Yen Sui, his eyes reddened, raising a stool to strike Xie Zhangbao, who was already immobilized. I rushed forward, wrapping my arms around Yen Sui, pulling him back. That's enough, Yen Sui. Leave him a life. You still have your college entrance examination. You can't afford to get into trouble. Yen Sui gasped for breath, his body trembling slightly, his knuckles white from gripping the stool tightly. I gradually pried his hand open, and with a resounding thud, the stool fell to the ground. In the next moment, Yen Sui abruptly turned and embraced me, pressing me tightly into him, his heartbeat nearly shattering my ribcage. Xie, I'm here. In that instant, my heart constricted, and my eyes inexplicably burned. Yan Sui, in your past life, did Xie Zhongbao do something wicked to me, which is why you're so furious? His arms tightened around me, squeezing me painfully, his voice trembling. He deserves to die. I sniffled, slowly lifting my hand to wrap around his shoulders. I'm fine. Yan Sui, Grandma is also fine. Warm tears trickled down my neck, like the ominous rumble before a storm, and with a breath, a torrential downpour fell into my throat. Xie Zhusheng, on the day I was reborn, my fear outweighed my joy. I was afraid of missing out again, afraid of being too late, afraid of still not being able to protect you. Yan Sui's tears seemed to overflow with his emotions. Regret, sorrow, longing, seeping into my skin, merging with my blood, coursing through my limbs and ultimately converging in my heart. I found myself at a loss for words. Then I resolved to act. I withdrew slightly, turning his face toward me, my gaze fixed upon those lips, and without hesitation, I pressed my own against them. Soft, salty. Yan Sui seemed momentarily stunned. I closed my eyes, smiled briefly, and raised my hand to encircle his neck, deepening the kiss. It was warm, wet, and alive. Kissing could halt tears. How wonderful, though it did leave me somewhat tongue-tied. I leaned against Yan Sui's shoulder, gasping for breath, when I suddenly heard a noise. Lifting my head, I saw Xie Zhongbao standing up. Instantly, I extricated myself from Yan Sui's embrace, shielding him behind me, and cast a cold glare at Xie Zhongbao. If you dare to insult me, I shall not hesitate to strike you. Furthermore, hand over the deed. Xie Zhongbao was unafraid of me, yet he ought to fear Yan Sui, as his wary gaze remained fixated on my back. After a few moments of silence, he produced the deed from his coat pocket and tossed it onto the ground. Yan Sui stepped out from behind me, taking my hand and suppressing his anger. Xie Zhongbao, you are unworthy of being Xie Zhusheng's father, nor do you deserve to be Grandma's son. If there is a next time, I will have you thrown in jail, and upon your release, I will ensure you are sent back. Xie Zhongbao's expression contorted, and he spat on the ground. The moment Yan Sui reached for a chair, he limped away. The door slammed with a resounding crash. Grandma, awakened by the commotion, glanced at me and then at Yan Sui, clasping our hands together, tears brimming in her eyes. We wished to take her to the hospital, but she insisted it was unnecessary, claiming she was hungry and wanted a meal. Yan Sui and I exchanged glances for a few seconds before deciding he would tend to Grandma's forehead injury while I tidied up the house. By 9:30, we finally sat down to dinner, prepared by Yan Sui. After the meal, I went to wash the dishes while Yan Sui kept Grandma company on the sofa, engaged in conversation. I overheard him listening to Grandma recount stories from my childhood. Yan Sui brought a basin of warm water for Grandma's feet while I changed her bedding. When Yan Sui helped Grandma back to her room, the way she looked at him was as if she were gazing at another beloved grandson. They must have shared something behind my back. By the time I lay in bed after my shower, it was already 12:30. Even after the lights went out, I could still sense Yan Sui's gaze upon me. My weary mind began to whirl, and I suddenly recalled something. I turned to face him. Are you wanting to discuss your study plan with me? Yan Sui paused for a moment, a hint of a smile gracing his lips. No, that can wait until school. Oh, then why aren't you asleep? Aren't you tired? Yan Sui was silent for 2 seconds. Xie Zhusheng, I want to hold you. Will holding me help you sleep? Yan Sui did not respond. Instead, he smiled faintly and laid flat. Good night, Xie Zhusheng. I could find peace, but I figured he might struggle. He was truly difficult to manage. I grasped his arm, snuggling into his embrace, then settled into a comfortable position. If your hands are sore in the morning, don't blame me. Yan Sui appeared momentarily stunned, like a statue. Yet soon, I could hear the rapid beating of his heart. The hand that patted my back was gentle, and the kiss that landed atop my head was tender. His voice was as soft as a cloud. Good night, Xie Zhusheng. I dreaming of the day I turned 19. At that time, I was still in debt to Hong Shi and working under Master Hong. One evening, as I returned to my rented room carrying groceries, I discovered that Xie Zhongbao was also there. The dining table was already set with several dishes and a birthday cake. I stood at the doorway motionless, as Xie Zhongbao rubbed his hands together, claiming he had been lucky lately and had won some money, wanting to celebrate my birthday. Indeed, today was my birthday, but it had nothing to do with him. I pointed to the door, urging him to leave, yet he pretended not to hear and called out, Mom, toward the kitchen. Grandma emerged, carrying dishes, and upon seeing me, her eyes instantly lit up with a smile. Zai Zai turns 19 today. More people means more blessings. Quick. Wash your hands and sit down for dinner. There's one more dish coming right up. After a moment of silence, I forced a smile and went into the kitchen to stir-fry the last dish. When I returned, I found that Xie Zhongbao had already set the table and poured the drinks. Halfway through the meal, Xie Zhongbao announced he had to leave, and I chose to ignore him. The sooner he left, the better. Grandma sang me a birthday song and was in the process of cutting the cake when my phone rang. It was Master Hong, informing me that there was an issue with a payment he had received today and asking me to come over. Grandma handed me a slice of cake, which I devoured in a few bites, feeling thirsty, and drank the remaining half-glass of beverage. Upon arriving at Hongxi, Master Hong told me the accountant was still reconciling the accounts and asked me to wait. I sat across from him, inexplicably irritable. Master Hong smoked, engaging in idle chatter. He occasionally inquired about my well-being, then mentioned he had recently opened a new venue, asking if I wanted to work there. I responded absently, feeling increasingly stifled and overheated, my back damp with sweat. A surge of heat coursed through me, and my limbs began to weaken. I stood up, preparing to leave, when Master Hong suddenly asked if today was my birthday. In an instant, my heart, which had been racing, felt as if it had been pierced by a bullet. Just then, the accountant emerged, confirming that there were no issues with the accounts. I struggled to breathe, my knees buckling as I knelt forward, forcing out a bleak smile. So this was Xie Zhongbao's scheme. Behind me, the door slammed shut with a bang. Hong Sen approached, grabbing my collar and lifting me, dragging me into his room. Your father owes 200,000 in my card room. Debts are inherited by children, and he sold you to me. The entire night, it felt as though I died over and over again. Yet when dawn broke, I found I could still breathe. I glanced at the sleeping Hong San and seized the ashtray, smashing it against his head. I then went to the card room to find Xie Zhongbao. By the time Hong Sen arrived, Xie Zhongbao was left barely alive after my assault. He pulled me away, leaving Xie Zhongbao with a fleeting chance at life. I was unconscious for 2 days, awakening to find myself still in that room. Hong San sat nearby, smoking. I immediately rushed for the door, but he restrained me, stating he had checked on my home and that grandma was fine. I stared at him, gradually breaking into laughter, tears streaming down my face. After that day, Hong San tossed me into his newly opened nightclub as security. Yet, there were always foolish individuals who thought I was selling myself. After much contemplation, I slashed my own face, the blood staining half of it, and smiled grotesquely. Now, people no longer cared to look at me. Hong Sen ceased to seek me out. I truly regretted not having made that cut sooner. 5 years passed, the debt settled, but Grandma's cancer recurred, and she passed away. Upon leaving the crematorium, I looked up at the sky, suddenly feeling light, like a balloon ready to float away. In a daze, I heard someone calling Xie Zhuxing. Following the voice, I saw Yen Sui. He ran towards me, but I pretended not to see him and turned to leave. He followed me all the way back to my rented room. Scolding didn't deter him, nor did physical confrontation. He still wanted to take me home. I could not fathom why he wished to reclaim such a broken thing. 2 years later, I finally understood. He wanted to be in a relationship with me. I told him I could not give him what he desired. He replied that it was fine. He would be content just to be good friends with me. After much contemplation, I decided to confess everything to him. I had expected him to abandon the thought, yet he dragged his luggage into my rented room, claiming he wanted to say good morning and good night to me every day in person. Another 2 years went by, and I no longer resisted Yen Sui's physical affection. Holding hands, embracing, kissing, until I fully accepted him. The safe word emerged from this understanding. If I ever felt uncomfortable, I could call it off. The first time, I couldn't voice it, yet Yen Sui still paused several times. Later, when I could finally speak it, he unexpectedly stopped. Frames upon frames, scenes upon scenes, weave together a film that plays back in my mind. The wounds that time cannot heal, Yen Sui can. He always stealthily applies ointment to my face while I sleep. The scars on my face have faded, and my smiles have multiplied. This is his testament of love for me. 5 years after our reunion, I am unwavering in my belief that Yen Sui loves me. During these 5 years, I participated in the adult college entrance examination, obtained my diploma, and became a primary school teacher. Yen Sui inherited the family traditional Chinese medicine clinic. After working for 6 months, the principal approached me, asking if I would be willing to teach in Ing Mountain for half a year. I agreed. Yen Sui insisted on accompanying me, but considering the presence of leaders on the journey, I declined. We arranged for him to pick me up when I returned, and we would go home together. Yen Sui consented, yet I broke my promise. The day before the holiday, an earthquake struck Ing Mountain. The primary school designated for my teaching was situated on a hillside, aged and vulnerable. When the earthquake hit, the plaster began to peel off the walls. I organized the students to escape swiftly, but a little girl, the last to run, suddenly fell. As debris rained down, she curled up in fear. The classroom shook violently. I rushed over to shield her, but in the next moment, a slab of concrete fell upon me. Instantly, dust and smoke engulfed the air, light vanished, and darkness surged from all directions. Blood surged from my throat, and I lost consciousness, losing all sense of warmth. I closed my eyes, pouring all my strength into thoughts of one person. Yen Sui in an apron, Yen Sui in a white coat, Yen Sui behind the wheel, Yen Sui smiling as he kisses me, Yen Sui eagerly awaiting my return home, the 28-year-old Yen Sui, the 27-year-old Yen Sui, the 26-year-old Yen Sui, and the final image, the 18-year-old Yen Sui. Outside the window, daylight broke. A large patch of Yen Sui's shoulder was wet. I turned my face, nestled against him. Inhaling softly, tears surged anew. Yen Sui gently rested his chin on my head, soothingly murmuring, "Did you have another nightmare?" I managed a muffled chuckle, lifting my head slowly to reply, "I did not have a nightmare. Yen Sui, I am back." The hand that wiped my tears froze, and Yen Sui stared at me unblinkingly, gradually furrowing his brow until his eyes glistened with unshed tears, pulling me tighter into his embrace. I reciprocated, feeling our hearts resonate in synchrony. "Yen Sui, did you ultimately bring me home?" "Of course, we promised." I rubbed my eyes against him, asking, "What about that little girl? Did she survive?" "Yes. Her family perished in the earthquake. I brought her back to our home. She said her name is Wang Yaya and wanted a new name, so I took the liberty of naming her." "What name?" "Xiananxing." I lifted my head from his embrace. "Why not take your surname?" Yen Sui looked at me and smiled. "Yaya said that Teacher Xie gave her a second chance at life, that she is a child of Teacher Xie." My eyes welled up again. I buried my face in Yen Sui's embrace, mumbling, "Is it my fault? Leaving you alone and now you have a child." After a moment of silence, a kiss landed on my forehead, and Yen Sui's voice held a hint of laughter. "How could I blame you? I couldn't even find time to miss you." Once I had cried enough, I emerged from his arms to inquire, "Have you been living alone all this time?" "I have Xiananxing. You know what I mean." Yen Sui fell silent, gazing at me with a smile. Well, the answer was self-evident. I asked again, "How many years have you lived?" 100 years. "You're lying. You previously said your grandmother lived to 100. A flicker of helplessness crossed Yen Sui's eyes as he got out of bed, abruptly changing the subject. "Xie Zhushang, you're going to be late for school." I lingered in bed, lost in thought as I watched him dress. With Xiananxing around, Yen Sui should live a long and fulfilling life. Glancing at the time, I knew I could no longer linger. I quickly got out of bed and dressed, initially intending to head straight to school with Yen Sui, but my grandmother intercepted us, serving 2 bowls of noodles. Each bowl was topped with 2 golden fried eggs. "Sit down and eat. You need your strength to study," she urged cheerfully. "Grandma, what about yours?" She smiled at me. "It's on the stove. You two eat first. I'll be right back." I peeked into the kitchen and saw another bowl, finally feeling reassured to sit down. As I reached for my chopsticks, I fumbled and dropped them to the floor. Bending down to pick them up, I simultaneously heard the clatter of pots and pans crashing to the ground from the kitchen. My heart sank. Yen Sui rushed in before me, and the next moment, I heard his frantic shout, "Xie Zhusheng, call an ambulance." Grandma was taken into the operating room. The words in surgery pierced my eyes painfully. I crouched against the wall, my mind still in a fog. The figure enveloped me. I hung my head, murmuring, "Yen Sui, Grandma, she will be fine, right?" After a moment of silence, Yen Sui knelt beside me. "Xie Zhusheng, I want to tell you something." "What is it?" "The day I was reborn happened to be the day my grandfather was buried, earlier than when he left in my previous life." I lifted my head, forcing a voice from my throat. What do you mean? Yen Sui looked at me, and after a long pause, managed a strained smile. Perhaps it's coincidence, or perhaps it's fate. For hours later, the door to the operating room swung open, and a doctor emerged. I staggered forward, hearing him say, "The patient has significant intracranial bleeding, and chemotherapy has led to abnormal coagulation. We have done our utmost. Please prepare yourself mentally." Grandma was sent to the ICU. 12 hours post-surgery, there was a rebleed, and Grandma was rushed back into the operating room. When she emerged, the doctor repeated the same words, "Prepare yourself mentally." Grandma returned to the intensive care unit. For the next 2 days, I could only gaze through the thick glass windows at her. On the third day, the doctor permitted a visit. Yen Sui stood outside while I donned a sterile gown, my legs feeling heavy as lead as I approached her bedside. Grandma was awake. Upon seeing me, her eyes sparkled with joy. The oxygen mask fogged up. I held back my tears, leaning in to hear her say, "Zai Zai, Grandma wants to go home." I turned my back, clenching my fists, afraid to look at her. Going home meant giving up treatment, meant she wouldn't last a day. My sleeve was brushed, and I stiffly turned, squatting at her bedside, trembling as I pleaded, "Grandma, just hold on a little longer. It can be cured." Grandma looked at me with a smile, a tear sliding down her cheek as she gently shook her head. I collapsed by her hand, sobbing uncontrollably. That night we went home. Yen Sui and I kept vigil at her bedside, unwilling to leave her side. Grandma kept watching me, raising her hand to stroke my face. "Zai Zai, these past 2 days, I've seen you through the glass. I know. Oddly enough, I can always see you. 10 years from now, taller, more handsome, happier. Grandma, don't worry, you and Xiao Sui will be fine." I thought I had cried all my tears, but my eyes were still like a dam bursting. Grandma seemed to know everything. She knew it all. "Zai Zai, don't cry. Heaven is fair. When someone returns, someone must leave. Life and death are predestined. Grandmother, in your lifetime you have no regrets. To continue living would only bring suffering. So let me be selfish just this once and allow you to depart early. This way you can bless my Zai Zai and Xiao Sui, ensuring their safety and long lives." I spoke through tears, unable to articulate more. Yen Sui gently lifted me aside, returning to the bedside where he clasped Grandmother's hand, kneeling on the floor. "Grandmother, rest assured, Xie Zhusheng and I will strive together for college, study side by side, and work diligently to improve our lives. I will take good care of him, love him forever, and ensure he suffers no more." Yen Sui choked back sobs, gradually succumbing to silent tears. Grandmother reached out to stroke his hair, her eyes glistening with tears. "Thank you, Xiao Sui, thank you." She turned her gaze to me, her voice becoming increasingly frail. "Zai Zai, you have always been my pride. Without you, I would have wished to leave this world long ago. Reaching this day, I am content. From now on, you and Xiao Sui must live well, support each other, and embrace tolerance. If you argue, do not let the night pass in silence. Communicate openly, all right?" I cradled her hand, forcing a smile as I nodded earnestly. Grandmother's eyes half closed, the corners of her lips lifting slightly. "Zai Zai, Xiao Sui, after I depart, do not dwell too long in sorrow. Look ahead and visit me once a year. That will suffice. All right." As our words faded, the room was enveloped in silence. The still air felt like a dull blade, slicing silently through the boundary between life and death. Yet I could do nothing but feel the warmth of her hand slowly diminish, growing increasingly cold. Grandmother closed her eyes, the cool morning breeze gradually stealing away her breath. Night surrendered to dawn as the sun rose. The soft morning light streamed through the window, illuminating the faint smile on her lips. Grandmother drifted into eternal slumber beneath the sun. Together with Yen Sui, we arranged for Grandmother's final rites. This year, the locust blossoms bloomed early. By March, the green branches were adorned with white bells. On the day of her interment, it rained locust flowers, their sweet fragrance filling the mountains, gentle and distant, perhaps a farewell gift from Grandmother. I knelt before her grave, my fingertips brushing the inscription on the tombstone, feeling an unprecedented tranquility within. Death is not an end. It is forgetfulness that truly signifies closure. I turned to the person holding the umbrella beside me and smiled softly. "Yen Sui, have you ever tasted locust flower pancakes?" "No." I stood up, taking his hand as we walked back. "I can make them, along with steamed rice with locust flowers. Grandmother taught me." Would you like to try? Sure. Just as we neared the cemetery exit, Yen Sui paused, turning to gaze at grandmother's tombstone. Xia Zhuxing. What is it? Yen Sui turned to me. In the 6th year after grandmother's passing, you saved Xia Nanxing, who was then 6 years old. I remember you telling me that grandmother's family was from Yingshan, which was one of your reasons for agreeing to teach there. My eyes widened slightly. Are you implying? Yen Sui smiled. It might be a kind of fate. I was thinking perhaps in this lifetime we can continue this bond. I looked at him with sparkling eyes. Do tell, do tell. Yen Sui chuckled, wrapping an arm around me as we walked back. A few days ago, I had someone visit Yingshan, and the news returned that a family there just welcomed a baby girl, bringing great joy to everyone. Yen Sui paused, but I understood his implication. In the previous life, Yaya's parents had her late in life, and the entire family cherished her dearly. Had it not been for that earthquake, she would have led a happy life. I looked at Yen Sui. Yaya now has a complete family. Perhaps all we can do is offer financial support? Yen Sui smiled at me. I've already sent a red envelope. But beyond money, we can also visit her. Let's go every 6 months, and when Yaya grows a bit more, we can support her education in the city. I felt a rush of emotion and immediately stopped to hug him, resting my head on his shoulder. How can you be so wonderful? He playfully squeezed the nape of my neck, and we continued walking. We've settled on visiting Yaya, but there's one thing we must prioritize. I rubbed my eyes and asked, what is it? Yen Sui put away the umbrella and said seriously, the college entrance examination. On the first day back to school, I was fully energized. However, reality proved harsh. My mind felt like a long-sealed warehouse, hardly filled before, and now I struggled to recall anything. After the final class of the afternoon, I felt utterly drained, collapsing on my desk. Yen Sui, I must tell you, I definitely need to retake the year. Yen Sui ignored me, gathering my backpack instead. What are you doing? I still have evening study. We're going home to study. I let out a lazy laugh. Do you think I can pass just by studying at home? I know my own abilities. It's retake or nothing. Yen Sui quickly finished packing, slinging 2 bags over one shoulder, and lifted me effortlessly, raising an eyebrow. Retake what? You still have me. You haven't gone through the college entrance exam. I have. Back home. Yen Sui seated me at the desk, turned on the lamp, and pulled out a sheet of A4 paper. There are 3 months until the exam. This is your study plan. I scanned through it, astonished. I can only sleep 5 hours a day? Yen Sui didn't even bat an eyelash. There's a 20-minute nap included. He then produced another sheet of scratch paper, jotting down notes. Aside from essays, I can recall about 20 of the original exam questions, but I can identify the key points for the remaining 80. Thus, our first step is to review those key points thoroughly and then find similar questions to practice repeatedly, at least 3 times. I'll do my best to find reading materials for Chinese. I might not remember the specific questions, but I can list the key points, which should yield some correct answers. As for English reading, it may be tough to find materials, but you needn't worry too much. You have a foundation and can rely on that. The focus should be on practicing questions to regain your language sense, plus listening exercises, one set in the morning and another in the evening. Finally, you have a solid foundation. The knowledge from the first year and the first semester of the second year covers about 70 of the exam material. Given your strong learning ability, if you concentrate wholeheartedly and sprint for 3 months, achieving a top university score is absolutely within your reach. Yen Sui's words ignited a fire within me, and that night, I studied until 3 in the morning. The next day, he dragged me back to school. With my bangs slightly askew, I hung onto Yen Sui and performed a rendition of the difficult road of Shu. As I tossed my hair back, I set off. I studied fervently for a month. In the second mock exam, I scored 408 points. My face fell and I could barely eat. Yen Sui meticulously reviewed my paper, praising my performance. I had answered all the key points he taught me correctly. This month of effort had not been in vain. I regained my spirits and continued to work hard for another month. In the third mock exam, I scored 504 points, yet I still fell short of the top university cutoff. Yen Sui, as before, helped me review the paper and he seemed quite satisfied, planting a quick kiss on my forehead. Xia Zhusheng, the purpose of participating in mock exams is to get a feel for the rhythm of answering questions and managing time. I have a good idea of how many points you can score in the actual exam. Trust me. I managed to smile, gazing into his weary eyes, and a wave of pain washed over me. I reached out, draping my arms around his neck and resting my head on his shoulder, murmuring, "How can I ever repay you?" The wild goose, like a playful child, patted my back, its voice laced with laughter. "Want to repay me? Sure. There will be a time for that." In the final month, I ceased attending school. Teacher Yen was at home, providing me with one-on-one tutoring around the clock. I felt as if I had been learning day and night without pause. I had promised to make acacia flower cakes for Yen, but I never found the time. Yen said it was fine. There would be plenty of days ahead. The day before the college entrance examination, Yen presented me with a writing prompt, instructing me to complete it within 50 minutes. As I penned the final period, 5 minutes remained. My thoughts had wandered too far. I glanced at Teacher Yen, who was dozing beside me, and a phrase popped into my mind. I picked up my pen and meticulously inscribed it on a scrap of paper beside him. "I leap into the sea within your eyes, my ears filled with the rhythm of your fervent heartbeat, and you drown me in your love." When the alarm rang, Yen opened his eyes, a gentle smile gracing his lips. "Finished writing?" I nodded and handed him the essay paper, secretly folding a corner of the scrap paper. Many years later, I discovered that folded corner in Yen's wallet. Alongside it, a drawing of a bamboo shoot had appeared. The 2 days of the college entrance examination unfolded smoothly. After completing the last subject, I dashed out of the examination hall, racing towards the designated meeting spot where Yen awaited. He caught me, and the first words whispered in my ear were, "You've worked hard." Tears sprang forth instantly as I embraced him tightly, laughing and crying. "Yen, you can now report back to your sideswept bangs." Yen laughed heartily, grasped my shoulders, and pivoted me around 180 degrees. To my surprise, the sideswept bangs were right behind me. But it didn't matter. I had accomplished what I set out to do. That evening, we slipped away from the gathering early. Yen took me to a hotel, where we checked into a room and indulged in deep slumber for 2 days without stepping outside. Throughout the summer, we traveled extensively together. Yen introduced me to numerous places, our first stop being Yingshan County. I inquired when he had crafted the travel itinerary, to which he replied that he had made no plans but would go wherever the moment took him. How could that be? Such a purposeful individual surely must be deceiving me. Before I knew it, August had slipped away. And just like in a past life, Yen was the top science student in the city, snatched away by Q University. Meanwhile, I had been admitted to a 211 university in the same city. At the beginning of September, we embarked on a relationship across different schools. Extra, from Yan's perspective 1. I fell in love with Xie Zhusheng, not at a specific moment, but through a gradual transformation brought about by a quantitative change. I adhered to convention, excelling academically, yet I also had a penchant for rebellion. Thus, I was inherently attracted to someone like Xie Zhusheng who played by his own rules. The closer I got, the more curious I became, and the more I understood, the deeper I fell. One day, standing before the national flag, I scanned the audience and instantly spotted Xie Zhusheng. All else faded away, and in that moment, the joy that rendered me unable to look away could perhaps be termed as infatuation. I began to crave his attention, yearning to witness the myriad of emotions he could express. I learned of his past glories and wished for him to become my academic rival. Consequently, I engaged in actions that seemed to oppose Xie Zhusheng. As these instances increased, it appeared that he began to harbor an aversion towards me, unilaterally designating me as his nemesis. Just as I was devising a strategy to redeem my image in his eyes, my grandfather passed away. I took a leave of absence to attend the funeral, and upon my return, I found Xie Zhusheng's seat vacant. He had dropped out. Many claimed he had fallen in with the wrong crowd, assaulting Chen Haoyu's uncle, vandalizing his home, and harassing him, recounting various atrocities as if they had witnessed them firsthand. I did not believe a word of it. I inquired about his whereabouts and eventually discovered where he had lived. But by the time I arrived, he had already moved away. Xie Zhusheng vanished just as I was preparing to confess my feelings. I spent 5 years yearning for him, searching for him. 2. Fortune smiled upon me. 5 years later, at the entrance of the columbarium, I reunited with Xie Zhusheng. He had grown taller, thinner, with a grotesque scar on his left cheek, his eyes clouded and devoid of recognition. I realized I had arrived late, yet I was grateful not to have come even later. I treated our reunion as a fresh beginning. I yearned to rediscover Xie Zhusheng. In the first year, we became ordinary friends. In the second year, we grew closer as good friends. On New Year's Eve, Xie Zhusheng, slightly intoxicated, asked if I liked him. I did not deny it, and he inquired what I liked about him. I smiled and gazed out at the snow drifting past the window. In the corner of the flower bed stood a tall, verdant bamboo, its sturdy form bearing the weight of the falling snow, yet remaining unbowed. Xie Zhuxing possessed a similar resilience that drew me deeper into admiration. I shifted my gaze back to the corner of the sofa where Xie Zhuxing lay asleep. His bashfulness when expressing concern struck me as endearing, and his clumsy attempts to care for me tugged at my heart. Perhaps it was love at first sight for me, both before and after our reunion. Falling for him felt like my destiny. Yet Xie Zhuxing told me he could not provide what I desired. What did it matter? I found contentment in our friendship. However, unbeknownst to him, Xie Zhuxing was always soft-hearted towards me, often making exceptions and allowing me to cross boundaries. Thus, I could not remain content as merely friends. In the third year, the present Xie Zhuxing opened up about his past. He presumed I would leave, yet I had merely gone home to retrieve some belongings. This was a signal. I had to seize this opportunity and inch closer to him. On New Year's Eve of the fourth year, we became a couple. On his birthday in the fifth year, he accepted the ring I had long prepared. The following day, he came to pick me up from work, gifting me one in return. I remember crying that day, tears of joy streaming down my face. Over 5 years, Xie Zhuxing had regrown a heart to love me. I was the happiest person in the world. In the sixth year, we moved to a new home, reveling in our romance. By the second half of the year, Xie Zhuxing was set to volunteer for a teaching program and insisted I not accompany him but promised to allow me to pick him up. I counted the days, eagerly awaiting his call to inform me it was time to depart. Yet, I never received that call before my demise. 3. Yingshan County 7.8 magnitude earthquake. The elementary school had been reduced to rubble. A volunteer inquired whom I was searching for. I replied that I was looking for my beloved. I had promised to bring him home. I followed the rescue team, digging for 3 days without pause. The time had exceeded our agreement, and I feared he would be angry. On the fourth day, I found Xie Zhuxing. Thick concrete slabs pressed down upon him, and he had shielded his students with his body. A little girl was carried away from them. It was then I noticed that Xie Zhuxing's fingers, which hung limply towards the ground, were adorned with a pair of reddish-brown wings. My breath caught for a moment. Earlier that year, the birthday cake Xie Zhuxing had made for me also featured a pair of wings. He had said that the character for Yen did not look beautiful when written out, so he gifted me a pair of wings. The wings drawn by Xie Zhuxing were exquisite. As the concrete slab was lifted, he fell into my embrace. The air was frigid, and I removed my coat to wrap around him. Those around us urged me to grieve. I knew, how could I not? I simply acted on instinct. We returned home, accompanied by a little girl, a child saved by Xie Zhuxing. She asked me to give her a new name, taking on his surname, thus adding a new member to our family, Xie Nanxing. My parents and friends assumed I would be devastated. I was not. I didn't shed a single tear. There were still many tasks before me. I needed to write a eulogy for Xie Zhuxing, preside over his funeral, accept accolades in his stead, and find a serene place amidst the mountains and waters for him. I wished to nurture Xie Nanxing with great care. I have succeeded. Nanxing has blossomed from a young girl into a poised and confident young woman, wise and capable of standing on her own. I feel that I have little left to impart to her, and thus I have entrusted the Chinese medicine clinic to her stewardship. Now I yearn to wander the world. I have traversed numerous landscapes, lofty mountains, vast seas, deep gorges, icy expanses, ancient towns, and stone caves. Xie Zhuxing has not visited me in my dreams of late, and he seldom appears during the day, leaving me unable to share my experiences with him. Therefore, at each destination, I pen a letter and send it to him. My final stop is our alma mater, where I have been invited to partake in the anniversary celebrations. While delivering my speech, I caught sight of Xie Zhuxing in a corner of the audience, lollipop in mouth, his face radiating a bright, clean smile, exuberantly carefree. After journeying through so many places, my heart remains drawn to the world that includes Xie Zhuxing. This longing has persisted. I visited the cemetery to seek his consent, and then I returned to the Chinese medicine clinic. The last prescription I penned in my lifetime was for myself. I made all necessary arrangements. After taking the medicine, I composed my final letter, addressed to the 17-year-old Yen Sui. Go to Wuan Alley and find a boy named Xie Zhuxing. Then cling to him, protect him, Shower him with abundant wealth and boundless love. The end of the text. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to our next story together.